Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. I am Cora Lynn, and I get to be the host today. And I'm here with my two friends, Jamie and Jessica.
Hello.
Guys, hi.
Your mic is working.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we are here. We are empowering everyday women through our stories, and we are here for all the good, the bad, and the funny. And we have got a guest today. So like we talked about, we are kicking off the new year with this 3-part series of just featuring super powerhouse women who are experts in their field. So 2 weeks ago, we had our financial planner on, and Hannah knocked it out of the park. We had strong coach Mary on last week, who talked all things health and fitness and that big M word that we're all frightened of, menopause. And that was such a great conversation. And today we have a life coach. We have Kyle Nowell. She's a dear friend of all of ours. We've had lots and lots of life with Kyle. And I'm just really excited. I will introduce your bio in a little bit. We're going to get started with a little first-minute fast question. But before we get into that, Kyle, how are you today? Thank you for being here.
I am great, and it's really fun to be with you.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
We got caught up a little bit. Kyle, you've traveled a lot in your lifetime, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been fun.
Intentionally.
That is so awesome. That's so great.
Kyle, when I met you for the first time, you were getting ready to go to Africa.
Yes. And John and I went back to Africa. We've been on 2 safaris there.
Oh,
that's great. That's so great. Yeah. So our first minute fast question, we are going to dive deep into very, very life coaching, neuroscience. Kyle's an expert in this field, but we're going to bring it a little bit on the humorous side. My first minute fast question is, obviously my full name is Cora Lynn, but in many circles of friendship, people call me Corey. Jamie, you have a name that's also a boy-girl name, and Kyle, you have a boy-girl name too. I want to know, what is your story where somebody just thought you, like the whole time they were talking to a dude, and then they found out you're a woman? And how did that go?
Every day. I've been in a male-dominated field for like 20 years. Unless they hear me or see me, every single person calls me Mr. Knievel. All of them. They think Jamie is a boy. My nickname is James. So there's that.
What? I did not know that.
You did not know that? All of my
No.
Yes. Well,
and I hate Corey, by the way. Like, I don't even think that fits you. Like, you don't look like a Corey.
It's really weird because there was a moment in my life where I graduated from college, and anything prior to that, I went by Corey. 100%. If you knew me from high school, you knew me from college. My family all call me Corey. And then after I graduated college, I decided, hey, I get a degree. I'm smart. Put on my big old pants and going by my full name, Cora Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when my two worlds collide, my husband cannot call me Corey. Like, it is just crazy. So like my brother, we're at Thanksgiving, my brother calls me Corey. Harrison calls me Cora Lynn. My whole family thinks I'm in trouble because I'm getting called by my full name.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Kyle, I'm sure that you have some crazy story where people think you're a man before they meet you.
I have a 3-part.
Good.
First of all, I was supposed to be a boy.
Oh.
Me too.
Dad wanted his firstborn to be a boy who would hunt and fish with him. And he even bet the doctor on the way into the delivery room 50 cents that I'd be a boy. He lost the bet. When he was walking me up the aisle, though, right beforehand, I said, you know what, Dad, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, is it? Because I hunted and I fished with my dad.
You did
Oh,
so
that's cool.
great.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind having the name Kyle until I got a draft notice.
Like to join, like to go in the army or whatever, in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Vietnam.
Oh my gosh.
I'm aging myself, but that's okay.
Yeah, because you look good, so that's okay.
Yeah, I got in line. What the hell are you doing here? Look at this. I got this. Needless to say, they had to make a change. And they weren't, it was only the guys they were drafting. So
Did you know this?
No, I did not
I'm
know
sorry.
this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. And, in business, just like Jamie, Mr. Knievel, Mr. Nowell, and I'm not offended unless they've met me. And talked.
Right.
And if they do, that's a black mark, get your act together. But
Yeah.
It happens all the time, still does. But I'm hearing more and more people say, I know a couple of other women who are named Kyle. So that's kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, I
good.
actually have another friend named Kyle, also spelled exactly the same way. And so she kind of apologized a little, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've got to." I'm like, "No, don't apologize.
It's a great name.
People will remember your name,
Give
like,
yourself the name.
right,
Yeah.
right."
Right.
Right.
Own it. It's yours.
Yeah.
Jess, has that ever happened to you? I mean, by like Jess or Jessie, you've always, as far as I know, you've always been a Jessica. So has that ever happened to you at all?
Yeah, no. I don't know if you know the story, but when Jessica Sanchez came to work for Direct Buy and people would get us confused all the time, she became Jessie and she hated it. And then eventually she got used to it. But I was like, no, I am not. Some people in my family or friends call me Jess, but that's as much like the Jessie thing. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's character building, right? We all just like learn from it, move on, right? And it makes for a memorable story.
Right.
Yes.
As I said, I begged my mom, like, why didn't you just name me Angie or Jessica? Why do I have to have like Cora Lynn? But
Yeah.
whole
love
nother
the
story.
name.
Whole
I
nother
think
story.
I like the name. Yeah, I like the whole name.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I also get people saying Kylie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kylie is a female, rendition.
Yeah.
So no,
Well,
it's Kyle.
Guys,
Kylie
we are
Nowell.
Right.
just trying to add an accent somewhere. Well, guys, we are going to jump in. I want to introduce Kyle because you need to hear her bio. It is fantastic. So, Kyle, you are a life coach, a seasoned life coach, and you have decades of experience with business consulting, leadership development, and really public service. So most recently, you were a consultant and engagement manager with their Neuro Leadership Institute, where you work on and using neuroscience to help organizations work with performance, leadership, and engagement. But before that, you owned your own IT consulting service called KMA Associates, named after yourself. And you're an IBM business partner and specialize in business and IT consulting. Before IT consulting was even a thing, you were literally a female pioneer in the IT space, which I think is just so awesome. I know, like, if we can we cue like applause? Awesome. But that's not it. And then guys, Kyle worked in the White House, literally had a role in the government. So she worked in the White House, serving in the chief of staff offices and the counselor to the president's office, and then also at the State Department, where she worked in arms control and like the nuclear agency. So, and that's just some. That is not even all. Like, Kyle has a resume that is bonkers amazing. Like, and I'm just
So did you start working when you were 12 or what?
I know, right?
What in the
Yeah.
pretty much? Huh?
After I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Just go for it. So that is quite the resume. Kyle, can you just give us a little bit of an overview, like personally, like how you came to be into the space and really how, like, why, like we want to talk about life coaching and how people can move into the new year. Awesome. Like, take this financial advice we had before, health and wellness, life coaching. How did you get into the space?
It was while I was at my business, KMA Associates. So I was not the technical genius. I knew how to hire really good technical people. But what I did is I worked with the sponsoring executive, whether it's the owner of the business or the director of IT, and I would meet with them. That was part of the project. And I was talking at a strategy level and helping them get really clear about the project they're going into and how it fit into their strategy for their role in their organization. And finally, in 1 year, I had 2 or 3 of these executives say, "What are you doing? Are you like, there's this new word, coaching. Are you coaching me?" And I guess I was. And I really enjoyed seeing people come to new conclusions, making new insights and moving forward and kind of pulling the whole piece of the project how it fit into their organizational structure and objectives. So I went, well, maybe I better look into that, because PCs were becoming more the rage. And I am not passionate about technology. I've got grandkids who are digital natives, but I didn't want to have to keep up with all of that. And I could have stayed in the role, but I was really fascinated with coaching. So I took a couple of courses, and then I just knew that was what I wanted to transition to. And I literally intentionally downsized my business.
Yeah. I remember our connection is that you were the general manager at the company when Jamie and I were working together in Minneapolis, and that's how we first got to know you. And I remember the first time that we ever interacted was that you were asking questions on, well, how does that make you feel? Or what do you want to do with this? Or what is your thoughts on this? And those are questions that I had never been asked before in terms of diving into the why behind what we're doing, or how to, and it was just, your management style was so different. And I remember that to this day, just always thinking there was something different about how you spoke to me as a professional woman, but just as a manager in general. Yeah. Jamie, what was your thoughts on that?
I've been thinking about it all day. I've been thinking about a little bit different side of that. The first time I was ever introduced, and I don't think I was actually introduced to you, Kyle. I think you were introduced in general to our group.
Yeah.
I remember Dana saying, this person is going to be part of our team. And she essentially listed off your accolades. Like, she is this, she is this, she is this, she is this. And like, thinking about it today, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, she's accomplished so many things. She is so many of these things. And like, obviously, Coraline, you just read off this more of I was like thinking, when did you decide to do all of this? At what point in your life did you say to yourself, I want to be all of these people. I want to get into all of these different topics and wear all these hats? Because that, number one, is my first question. I want to know that about you. But two, yeah, I mean, I remember sitting down with you and us talking about, just like you said, Coraline, things that, I mean, we were very much, you do this, you do this, you do this, and this works. And Jessica, you know this. We had a marketing system. You do these many calls, and this is how many you book, and this is what happens, and this is what happens. And it is very black and white. And that's what the numbers work, and that's how you make the thing work. Kyle came in and asked you questions about how your feelings and cut to Jamie crying. So yeah, very much like, I don't know what let me go over here in the bathroom. So I'm comfortable, like, because I wasn't used to that, but probably a good thing, a good uncomfortable, right? But oh my gosh, I remember you talking about coaching and saying, like, you think about sports and you think about somebody breaking you down and making you better and talking about the little things and talking about that. And you talked about that in terms of business. And you talked about that in terms of, I'm not trying to take, you need to talk about that, but
no.
It made so much sense. It made so much sense. So I saw the value right off the bat. And I absolutely believed in it as soon as we had probably our first discussion.
Neat. And, and the thing is that direct buy is a people business, right? You've got to interact with people. What is going to make them say yes? What are their
Now, was that your role there? Was it still like a consulting, coaching type of role?
Yeah. I would say so. that calling me the manager, I didn't know squat about how to stand up and do that presentation, right? Those are all things that Jamie and Coralyn and the others in the group had to teach me. We all had a place, and then we had to figure out how that all fit together. But by and large, that was, it's a people business. Even technology is a people business. First of all, you wanted me to say something about coaching. And let me just say to all the women, primarily listening, if you want to make significant strides in your life or your business, hire a coach. If what you're doing is working well for you and that's what you want to continue on that path, you may or may not need a coach. But if you want to make significant strides, you want to go where, people have not dared to go, do things that that today you don't even know about, dreaming about, hire a coach, because it's going to elevate and broaden your thinking and your perspective. A coach is someone who's going to help you be accountable to yourself for the commitments you make to yourself. People say, I want a coach because I want somebody to report into and hold me accountable. Well, it's about learning to hold yourself accountable. And when you do that, then, and you broaden your perspective and you improve your thinking, change will happen. And your coach will help you, support you to live into the person that you're maybe almost dreaming about. I mean, you really can make significant strides.
Now, is this do you work with companies or individuals? Because that's something that I thought about for years is, do I need like a professional coach to help me get my career to the next level? Do you work with both? And what's your preference in terms of coaching?
So I've been a life coach to a number of people. Life coach is someone you're just trying to figure out the next step in your life. You may not be a business owner. If you're a business owner, you really want a business coach, because as an entrepreneur, your business is a reflection of who you are and what you want. So you want to get clear on that. I've done a lot of training with organizations, with the Neuro Leadership Institute. And there we were training, and we were working with Fortune 25, Fortune 100 companies. And we were training top level people to have a more coaching type conversation with their teams. And they would tell you it made all the difference in the world. Because instead of managing, we talk about you manage things, you lead people, right? But as managers, sometimes we want to manage the things, and it's the people. Right. So you want to lead them, and you want to actually help coach them. So I can tell you that you ready for the tie-in?
Yeah.
To neuroscience?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I need to put my seatbelt on for this.
I need money for that.
I know.
You don't have to be a neurosurgeon to get how the brain works, okay? At a high level, all right?
It's great.
So my training came from Results Coaching Systems, and which then morphed into the Neuro Leadership Institute. Both were founded by David and Lisa Rock. I've got to give credit where credit is due. And their definition of coaching is facilitating positive change through improved thinking. So it's based on neuroscience, based on how the brain actually works.
Okay.
So neuroscience is the study and research about the brain and how it works. Neuroleadership is leadership and coaching training based on how the brain works. So let's talk about coaching as opposed to some of the other options we have for interventions. If you want to, you can play along with me. Draw a horizontal line on your paper, right to left, vertical top to bottom. At the top of your vertical line, write ask. In the bottom, put tell. On the left of the horizontal line, put problem. And on the right, put solution. Okay? So this will help us. What is coaching and what is not coaching? We call this the TAPS framework because of the tell, ask, problem, solution. It's a map of the different types of conversations you can have as a manager or a leader. and it illustrates some of the differences in interventions. So as leaders and managers, at times, we could be in any of these 4 quadrants. It makes sense if someone comes in with a problem that is really technical, procedural. There's really only one right answer that you might ask about that problem. Tell them what the problem is, shape it up for them, and then tell them what the solution is. But if the issue is personal, emotional, or there is no just one right answer to how to move forward, the ask about the solution in the upper right quadrant is probably the best way to go about it. Okay, it's more effective. So let's label these. The upper left quadrant is counseling. The lower left is consulting. The lower right is training, where you're telling someone what the solution is. And the top right is coaching. Mm-hmm. And how do you as a manager, because we train managers in this, how, like the question I would ask myself is, if someone comes in and has a dilemma, think, who needs to do the thinking about this? Is it me or them?
Mm-hmm.
And who needs to own and execute the action? And if it's them, you want to ask them questions, solution focused, and have them do the thinking. And the reason is, go ahead.
So is it you have an inkling, you kind of know the solution, but you need someone to help you figure it out? Or maybe you need someone to help you
as a
figure
leader?
Out the next step?
You mean as a leader?
Yeah.
No, the employee comes in and says, we have got this problem in the project, or having a problem with a customer, whatever. The question is, I may have an answer, right? I may have been there, but these are new people and new circumstances. And if I keep giving my employees the answers to their dilemmas, guess what? They'll be back in my office next week with a very similar issue, asking me not the same, but close to the same. I'm not helping them think for themselves.
Yeah. That and what I find when I do that is sometimes they have better answers than me, especially when they're out there. They're the ones that are boots on the ground. Sometimes I always say my answers might be expired, meaning what when I was a seller, what worked then, we're in a different world. So I just ask a bunch of questions, and a lot of times they come up with answers that I would have never come up with.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you're developing them. This is team development.
I love it.
Okay. So if we're going to facilitate positive change through improved thinking, let's look at how and what the brain needs in order to change, right? Because change's got to happen up here. Ready? All right. There's 4 things in progression that the brain needs in order to change. The first is to create a towards state. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but it has to be in a positive frame of mind, okay? And then we have to facilitate insight. And insight, an aha moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what happens in an aha moment is a whole new map of connected neurons happen in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been connected that way before. That's why you go, wow, I hadn't thought of that before. And then there's energy that's created when you have an insight, and you work with the insight and look at committing to actions to move you forward. And then you follow up in coaching at a later date, right? Or as a manager on those actions to help, and you ask questions about the follow-up actions, including how did you feel about that? To help build new habits. And habits is where we make change, right?
Yeah.
So why these 4 steps? We have to look at the brain at a high level. You ready to go down another layer?
Yeah.
We'll start with the executive center of the brain. The scientific name is prefrontal cortex, or the PFC. You've probably heard of it. So here, if you put your hand horizontally on your forehead, you're covering your PFC. It's very thin. It's right in the front there. It's the thickness of just a few business cards. It only represents about 2% of the brain. Here's another interesting fact. It's the last part of our brain to develop. Our prefrontal cortex, according to research, doesn't really fully develop until between usually ages 23 and 25.
What?
Oh, yeah. I remind my sons of that. I tell them that's why they're still dumb. Yes. Yeah.
That is not what Kyle said. That's what Jessica said.
No, yeah.
Jessica's interpretation and real life application of the knowledge we're talking about. I have this note. This can be useful information when talking to or dealing with teenagers.
Yeah.
The executive center, the prefrontal cortex, is involved in these things: deciding, making decisions, understanding things, recalling things in the moment, not past history, close in, inhibiting. For example, the PFC is used for controlling any impulse, whether that be thought, behavior, or emotion. Controlling impulses. You hear teenagers again?
Yeah.
They don't have an executive center fully developed. And memorizing. So it's all those types of executive functions. So it has some limitations. Okay, so let's talk about that. It's energy intensive. It represents 2% of the brain, and it uses 20% of our energy resources to function. It is very small, literally can only hold 4 to 7 data points in our prefrontal cortex, which is our working memory at any one given time. It is a serial processor that does not speak to multitasking. It really only can do one thing at a time. Multitasking comes in if one of the two things that you're trying to multitask is something you already know how to do, right? Like driving. You listen to, right? Used to be CDs. Now you listen to podcasts. I get some of my best ideas walking on the beach, right? Okay. It's also very fussy. One of the researchers from, where's she from? Yale University, called it the Goldilocks of the brain. It needs to have just the right neurochemical balance. If it doesn't have enough, we're bored. And if it has too much, we are overwhelmed. You ever said my brain feels tired?
Yeah.
Just using it. And it's easily distracted, both internally. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, people around, so that's your PFC.
And this is our decision making part of our brain that has all these different nuances, all these different things. How does that work in like goal setting when you're trying to strategize or trying to plan and you've got all these different things that are happening? How does these things that we're discussing help us to become better decision makers in the moment or planners when we've got all these different impulses that are happening?
First, having awareness about them. Also, one of the fundamental concepts that I wasn't going to go over is choosing your focus. You can be at a vision level, you can be at a strategy level, you can be at a detail level, right? You can be at a problem level, or you can be right down there in drama. And when you're in drama, the swirl, right? I mean, oh my gosh. If you choose, you can say at a meeting, we've used this in meetings. Here are the various levels that we could be talking about as a team. And today we're going to talk at a vision level. If you drop down, I'm asking your permission right now to raise us back up. So keeping a focus does help in certain situations. Just being aware of it. I mean, I walked into John's office, my husband, and said, my brain hurts. I'm overwhelmed. But I know it. So I say it out loud. And he said, breathe. I go get water. I do something else that doesn't require those. And then I can come back and I'm fresh.
Yeah, that's good to identify that, though, because I find myself in a lot of leadership meetings where it's 2 hours later and I'm like, I don't, believe it or not, I don't say it most of the time, but I'm like, we got way off track. Like we started this and we were supposed to be talking about this. And it's not that it's completely off topic, but like you're saying, we were way off over here or over here and nobody identified to say. And then I feel like we never solved for what we were solving for because of that. And that's good. If we identified it and brought people back every time they went in those different places, because it ends up being a waste of damn time and we didn't solve for what we were here for.
Right. And people can't process at all those different levels all at once.
Right.
And so if you're solving for something, we're here to discuss, you write it up, right? This is the reminder. You don't have to. Everyone works differently. Excuse me. But here's the question we're solving for. This is what we're discussing, and we're going to discuss it at this level. Okay. So now we're going to go into the voluminous non-conscious brain, most of our brain. And we're going to look at that and its relationship to the PFC. So if you think of the PFC as a cubic meter of processing power, your non-conscious part of your brain is roughly equivalent to the rest of the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay, say that again.
Forming. If you think of the prefrontal cortex is as an equivalent to about 1 cubic meter of processing power, your non-conscious brain is equal to the rest of the Milky Way.
So your non-conscious brain is enormous, and things are happening in your head all the time, everywhere. And go ahead.
The real key in the non-conscious is that's where all your maps form. That's where the maps to the connection of the neurons happens. So that's where all your experience rests. That's where your perspective rests. It holds all of our hardwired information. This is working memory. This is hardwired information, including habits. Walking. Do you think about each step? Heel, ball toe? No, we don't. We don't have to. Driving. Think about how non-conscious driving gets.
Sometimes that's terrifying.
Is that like when you've driven an hour and you go, like, you don't even remember driving for an hour?
Right. And we just turn on the blinker because we're in that pattern, right? Minimal effort is needed to use that part of the brain, and it's not easily distracted. Okay, threat and reward. Your brain wants to minimize danger, keep you alive, move you away from threat, maximize pleasure, or move toward reward. Your brain is scanning the environment 5 times a second and classifying everything according to, is it bad or is it good? Now, this is a simplification, but that is what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. The brain's goal is to keep you alive. I think Jessica said that earlier. So we've got threat and reward. Threat or bad is stronger than good. Threat responses kick in faster. They're more powerful, and they last longer. Think about news programs. One of the first things they lead with
the bad
is the horrible news.
Well, I've always heard, people are more scared of what they'll lose than what they'll gain, and it's, the tragic stuff is always more interesting than the good stuff, Yeah.
Which is why I don't listen.
There you go. And think about negative political ads. You go, what? They work. Okay. And it's stronger. That threat response is stronger because the limbic system has 5 times more physical real estate in our brain, more than the PFC, I mean. So threat is more memorable than reward, and it can last longer. Okay. Now for the last session. So our biggest threats and rewards are actually social. Is that surprising?
No, not for me.
Yep. Our best and worst moments are social, and we face a lot of them at work. Our social network is actually our default network. So if we're not thinking about a particular task, thoughts go back to us or what people might be thinking about us. If you're giving a speech like I am, watching your faces, I wonder what they're thinking. Are they getting it? Are they questioning my
It'd be way more helpful if you could see the light bulb over my head.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So in the brain, social pain equals physical pain, to the point. The same brain regions light up in an MRI.
I try to tell people this, and that's just unbelievable to them. It's unbelievable.
So how does that play out though in workplace conflict? Or if that's true, what is it like, what's a good real life example of how that plays out and how we can make better decisions knowing that?
Well, let me say that social, they can be equal, showing up in the same circuits get lit up, but social pain is more memorable. So let's say I fall down in front of my team, and I get myself hurt, right? But it was really kind of a stupid thing.
Very embarrassing.
The pain will fade a lot more quickly than the embarrassment.
That's a great example.
That is a great example.
Yeah. And if we hurt someone socially, that pain lasts longer than if we just
Punch them in the face.
punch them. You think about junior high girls and boys, right? When my daughter was in junior high, I sat down with the teachers first time and I said, by the way, I would vote for hazardous duty pay for you. Boys, they get mad at each other, they punch each other out. Now, that wasn't a good way to resolve it, but what did girls do?
Right.
Girls are awful.
No, they're catty. They're so catty. Words all the time, 100%.
Yeah.
Mostly. Unless
now
you
with
grew up in
social media,
Chicago.
Social media, the stuff that gets posted
Yeah.
can annihilate a girl's self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
That can happen to guys too.
Yeah.
But we're leading like a girl.
There we go.
So it's more memorable. So our socially wired brains there's 5 social domains. There's more than that, but they've been condensed down into 5 social domains that need to be cared for in order to have a towards state in our brain. Remember, towards state allows us to have an insight. Okay.
That
It's
aha
called
moment.
An aha moment. And David Rock condensed that research into a model with an acronym of a SCARF. And we want a quiet state so we can have that aha moment. Insights are important for us to, actually adapt to change, improve performance, and accomplish our actions, etc. So it's SCARF. S stands for status. It's about our relative importance to others. And the brain is it's a constant evaluation going on. Am I at the top of this group, in the middle of it, or at the bottom? In the workplace, being socially or psychologically attacked, ridiculed, embarrassed, ignored, unrecognized, is processed as an attack on our status. So that's status. C is certainty. The brain is a prediction machine. We said that before. And uncertainty arouses the limbic system. It craves certainty and is trying to keep us safe. And even a small amount of uncertainty gives the error message in our brain goes off. Okay, A is autonomy. The brain not only likes to predict the near future, but have a say in it. It's a feeling of having a choice, and it can dramatically impact your stress levels. So it's an increase of perception of autonomy or choice. A decrease in perception of autonomy is if you're being micromanaged. Well, look at this. I saw everyone go.
We've
talked about this.
Yeah.
We have an episode coming on this.
Okay. Great. The R is relatedness, friend or foe, trust or distrust, as you were talking about, connect or don't connect. Here's the bad news. Foe is the default. Our brains immediately, it's trying to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Who's this person? I don't know this person, right? But if you meet someone and let's say you both went to the same college, that's the beginning of having something in common.
See, this will take us down a whole nother road. This is where my diversity and inclusion and all go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. But we perceive people as either similar or different from us. Some things are obvious, but some things go far beyond the obvious. The ability to feel trust and empathy about others is shaped by whether we are perceived to have some common experience or we're part of the same social group.
100%.
Okay. And F is fairness. It's perceived fairness. And like status, people perceive fairness in relative terms. In one study out of UCLA, people were more satisfied receiving 50 cents out of a total pool of $1 than they were receiving $10 out of a pool of $50.
I can see that. I
fairness.
mean, yeah, because it's your perception, right? Is that we all should get an equal share or an equal
Right.
shot or whatnot.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then let's have a conversation about how we can redistribute this.
And leaders many times underestimate the importance of fairness and compensation. Like people aren't working just for the money, but if they perceive that they are not being compensated fairly, like women in equal responsibility jobs, right? They're profoundly demotivated. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This like sparked so many things to think about, so many things that stand out.
So
like
I do have a
thinking about
question,
your
though, to
daily
kind of-
daily activities. I mean,
How can we use all of this neuroscience and all the things we just learned on how our brain functions? How do we use that, like in a nutshell, to be better leaders and better doers, more strategic, even for others and for ourselves? What's your top suggestion on how to use all this information in a practical way?
Think through the scarf and think about your interactions with people and how you treat people. Be intentional about noticing the good things they do, because when you acknowledge someone for doing something well, it's a signal to their brain to do more of it.
Yeah, that's totally true.
That type
that's
of thing.
great.
Yeah.
Catch people doing things right. The age-old, probably 40 years old book, 1 Minute Manager. Catch people doing things right and mention it. Yeah, acknowledge people.
Sorry,
Begin
got to
to
get my
ask
notebook
them-
back out.
Begin to ask them. So here, I actually have. Hold on. There's a book. This book is about the SCARF model, Your Brain at Work by David Rock.
I own that book, probably from you, Kyle. Like, I swear I have that book.
Probably.
I have that book on my.
Yeah. If you don't have one, let me know. And his book prior to that, David's, is called, what is it? Because it's about coaching. Quiet Leadership.
That sounds familiar to me.
Yep.
Okay. And that talks about getting into the questions and the dance of insight, how you can help people come to their own conclusions and take action.
That would be a good one for our book club.
There you
Right.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, this has been awesome.
Okay. It's been fun. It's so good to see you, ladies, and so good to see you again and meet you, Jessica.
Yes, I've really
Thanks.
enjoyed this episode, really.
Good.
It's been
Absolutely.
really great.
Good. All right. So if you want to hear more from Kyle, you can check out actually probably the Neuro Leadership Institute. They've got tons of information on that website. I kind of did a little recon beforehand, but there's lots of information if you want to dive into this. David Rock, right, is the author of the book that you recommended.
Yes, David Rock is the author of the book.
Yeah. Awesome. And then Lead Like a Girl Lab. Check out our website. We have lots of new merchandise. We've got a new website that you want to check out if you haven't been there yet. And then you can find us on all of our social media accounts. So we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever else you can find us on. We want to thank you.
And
guys.
TikTok is
And
back.
TikTok, yes. We weren't there on that one day, but we are back. But thank you for listening to us, and I hope that you tune in next week as we continue to empower everyday women through our stories. But until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.